Let's do a short warm-up. Take a look at the arms. So feet together. Let's take a bow. And feet shoulder width apart. Knees bent, hips tucked, shoulders relaxed. Find your vertical. Lengthening the spine, tilting the head slightly. And bend forward. Straighten the legs. Hold. Raise. Come back up. Unroll the spine. Hands on kidneys, lean back. And back to center. Oh. And again. Straighten the legs. Oh, roll down. And come back up. Hands on kidneys. Oh. Oh. Back to center. And again. Oh. Come back up. And lean back. Oh. Last time going side to side. So. Oh. And swinging from foot to foot. Back to center. And unroll and lean back. And back to center. Now carry the tiger. Stretch up. And drop. Now, play the pipa. So shift, turn, forehead to the knee, hand sweeps to the ankle, and sweep up, inhaling. And bring hands at the foot, shift, turn, halt. 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 Back to center. Now, horse stance. Squat. Push the knees apart. And squat, toes down. And shift. And shift, toes up. And shift, toes up. And come back. Walk the feet. Whew. All right. So let's take a look at the arms in the 13 postures. All right, so we'll just walk through the 13 postures and pay particular attention to the arms. Remembering that the rule is movement comes from the feet going up. So we looked a lot at the stepping. So now we'll start to see how the arms are expressed, or how we're expressing the energy that's rising through the arms. So there's one idea that I want you guys to think about, to hold in your mind, right? There's the concept of the three Dantians in Chinese medicine and Tai Chi and all. So lower Dantien, middle Dantien, upper Dantien. And they're tied usually to energy, right? So you use it when you do energy flow and how the energy is moving through the body, and it collects in the lower Dantien process and upper and middle and upper Dantien. But you can also think of the three Dantians at areas in the body that are transforming energy. So, you can mean that even mechanically, which means that the lower Dantien is the seat of the hips. So not just the hips, like in terms of the hip joints, but the lower back, the belly, all of this whole area essentially, mechanically, can be thought of as the lower Dantien. And it's a place where energy from the legs is then transformed, because then it's aimed, it's turned and moved and directed through the hips, right? The waist is the commander. So the lower Dantien is a place where upward energy or downward energy is transformed and given a direction, right? Because the legs can only give you up or down direction. The waist is where that transforms it, right, into rotation. The middle Dantien can be thought of as the shoulder area. So it's not just the shoulder joint, but the lower back, the upper back, right? The shoulder blades, the chest, the sternum, whenever you sink in the chest, so you're rounding the back. So the middle Dantien is, again, the area where energy that's rising through the body is transformed, because the energy, the up and down energy of the leg is turned in the hips, rises, and then expressed through the arms. So the upper Dantien is where rising energy, once again, is transformed. The upper Dantien, the middle Dantien is here, upper Dantien is the head. It's simply where your intent is expressed. Because we see that, for example, in brush knee, our intent is this way, but it can go backwards, it could go forwards, right? So the upper Dantien is essentially the head and where you're looking. So this is in terms of biomechanics. I'm not talking about energy, just biomechanics. You have three places where this rising energy is transformed, and all these three places are connected by the spine, right? So when we talk of the vertical, both energetically and just kind of gravity, we also think of the spine mechanically as the joint between those 3 points, those 3 areas of transformation. So when we move and we do the form, the idea is we're engaging these 3 points, right? Because even here, my hips are turning, my arms are turning. Notice my head is actually turning as well, because as the body moves, but I want to still look forward. So my head is moving in relative to the body. So again, that's why I'm saying there's these three areas of transformation that we have. And you link them all by the spine. So this is an important idea, because as we're going to see with the arms, where the arms are physically is going to depend on that transformation. And the one crucial idea is the spine, right? That vertical is your midline, because that's going to be one of the things that we're going to talk about with arms is, are you crossing your midline too much? Are you closing yourself off? And one of the reference points is this verticality, this vertical line, the spine that connects the 3 Dantians. And the question becomes, are you closing yourself off so that now you're essentially breaking that connection, because your spine is so twisted that now you're actually breaking the line of force, if that makes sense, right? So we're going to look at crossing this midline, where it's too far, too much, or opening that midline too much, where now we're opening joints too much, and you lose that structure. So just keep in mind, as we move through space, we're this string of pearls hanging from the head, right? It's a string of pearls, and it's 3 Dantians, both energetically and mechanically, that are moving through space, tied together by the verticality of the spine. All right? So keep that in mind. So let's do 13 postures. Let's start, and we'll just walk through and talk through each position. So feet together, toes together. And so we sit down, step to the side, rise up, sit, raise the arm. So already right here, this just there sets us up for the rest of the form. Right? So the basic posture has all of the elements that you're going to preserve as we move. That means that when I'm here, there's space under the armpit. You know, they call it like holding an egg under your armpit. And that space is there because the shoulder blades are flattened against the back. Basically, you're rounding the back. All right, so that should feel very familiar. Elbows are low, so you're not dropped. It's not here, it's here. And it's not because the elbows are rising, it's because the shoulder is extended, the shoulder joint is extended. You can feel the space in the elbow joint, in the wrist joint. Everything is lengthened, long, relaxed. The shoulders are down, but armpit is open. Right? So elbows are not here, but here. And here you can feel this tension in the shoulder. Here there isn't. Shoulder's nice and low. But this is too tight. This is collapsed. So, and this roundedness, we're gonna use this as our reference point in terms of feeling. Right? So that's the important part. The feeling of having these nice open connected shoulder joints. The shoulders are connected to the spine. That's the feeling you should have. The back is rounded. We call it sink in the chest. Right? Sinking in the chest is really rounding the back, flattening the shoulder blades. So you have that feeling of support. The back muscles are what's being used to support the shoulders and the arms. So when we're at the form, we're here. First thing we do is we shift, bring the toes, turn, and then now the right arm simply dropping. So it's like often it's called holding the ball. Right? Holding the ball. Here again, you want to have that opening. So the left arm simply went here, right arm drops and forms a circle. Arc in the arm, right, very simple. Arc in the arm. But again, you don't want it to be tight. The space, the shoulders are expanded. They're looking for that roundedness and openness in all the joints. And now, sit down, step out, ward off. Right, ward off. Pretty simple. And what you're warding, the ward off here is this sweeping or scooping motion with the arm. Scooping motion in the arm. The left hand, fingers are pointing at the wrist, but not touching. Right? So they're basically on the same plane, fingers touching, fingers pointing, not touching. And this is just a swoop. And here again, you'll feel on the rising of the arm, how high you should go in the shoulder. Right? So I'm going to go here. If I go here, I start feeling I'm engaging the shoulder muscles too much. There's a tightening. And you can actually feel that now. You can see the crease in the shoulder muscle. You just want to rise up to where now everything is in line, no higher than that. Right? And so it's a feeling in the shoulder of connection. The minute you go a little higher, you can feel that the shoulder joint is now a little too open. And so if somebody were to push, you wouldn't have any resistance because the back muscles are not engaged. Right? So there's a specific point here where you have the structure that goes from the spine across the shoulder, across the arm. That's the feeling that you're going for. You can see that if I'm here, now that structure is broken and I have no force here. The back is not helping me anymore to support the arm. All right, so most of the time we're going to go with the feeling of it. That's going to be the real determinant, is your own shoulder, your own body. So you can feel, you can correct yourself simply by paying attention. Where's that structure? And so now when we move on to grasp the sparrow's tail, it's the same idea. Grasp the sparrow's tail. So this arm is the easiest, right? So we're here, just drop. Notice there's still that arc, space under your armpit, shoulders relaxed. Palm is facing up, which really means is what you're doing is you're using the back of the hand to block. It's a block. It's not too extended, that's too straight. You want that curve, which creates that nice support, right? That's arc. The right arm in this case goes back. And again, you should pay attention to your shoulder, because what you're going for is this sense of structure, even here. Right? So my arm is creating, it's a smaller curve than the other one. But if the elbow is too high, you can feel in the shoulder, there's no strength. If it's too low, you're collapsed. And now there's no space. So it's extended. Again, is the shoulder extended? And all you're doing is returning the hand. So grasp the sparrow's tail. Notice that there's very little movement actually in the arm. You just turn, right? Turn the hand, that's it. And so when I'm here, I can feel that the arm is still supported by the back and the shoulder. It's important because one of the things you want to remember is that grasp the sparrow's tail, there's a punch coming in, you block. So part of the feel you want to have is that even though this is rollback, that you're still connected. The arm is still connected through the back to the hips and the foot. And that if you were to stop here and somebody was pushing against you, that you actually would have the structure to resist, which is why if you go too far, and if somebody were to push, I wouldn't be able to resist. Right? So again, it's that feeling of connection which tells you how far to go. Right? If I'm here and the arm is too folded, there's no strength. So the arm has to be out. You have to have that arc in the arm. That's what tells you that you're in the right position. Because if I'm here and I turn, if there's pressure here, I can resist. Not that I want to resist, but the structure is there. If I go too far, structure's not there, I can fall. There's no way for me to resist in this position. It has to be here. There's no other choice, really. Right? So once you start getting into those feelings, you'll see that there's really very little choice. You have to fall into these kind of grooves that your body dictates. Boom. It's here. It can't be anywhere else. If I move any further, I'm off balance. Right? That makes sense? So make sure you don't think of it as elbow goes back. It's turning. So again, this idea of the Three Dan Tiens, the waist turns. Right? Am I still connected through the shoulder, through the spine, to the waist, to the foot? That's the, right? Am I still connected? Boom. Boom. Right? Going down. Turning, spiraling down, but the arm is still connected. So this actually can be a fairly solid position. Okay? And make sure there's space, right? Space under the shoulder, space under the armpit, shoulders open. Right? The same feeling that you have in basic posture. Should be here. Okay? And then we just throw. And again here, we throw, and we don't cross the midline too much. Right? Because we're here. So sometimes people go and you go all the way over here, which means like you're rising fully onto that rear leg, turning the hips, and in a way you're overturning, and the hand goes too far. And again, we want to go with the feeling of the structure. Are your hips and shoulders and head still connected by the spine? And when you're here, if you rise up, if you stop here, right, the power projected is right here. Boom, boom. If you go further, you're not pushing anymore, first of all. So there's no point in going further than this. And also, again, this midline. Once I cross the midline, once I'm here, see my shoulder now is actually slightly hyperextended. My back is too curved because I've risen too much, and I can't maintain, if my leg is straight, I can't maintain the dropped hips. Right? So here the thrust, the push, is right here. Anything beyond that, suddenly the structure is gone. You can feel it in your lower back. Anything behind here, and then suddenly my shoulder is now hyperextended. Right? So my shoulder is now not connected to my upper back. So I'm going to go right here and stop, and then come back. All right. So again, it's an internal feeling. You want your own body to be the reference point. So that sense of the midline is going to be really important. Not any further is bad. It's right here. All right, then come back and then press. And press, it's going to have the same structure as basic posture, just here. All right, space under the armpits, back is rounded, shoulders are connected. And again, here, one of the things is you don't want to think in terms of pushing with the arms or the hands. You want to think of expanding, and that means that it's actually a deepening of the sit and making sure the hips are nice and tucked, because you want to feel like you're increasing the connection between the wrist and the lower back, right? Especially for press. Press should move in both directions, right? So press is not just projecting energy out, that's push. Press should feel like energy is being projected through here and through the lower back and connected to the foot. All right? That's an important one. It's one of the distinctions between press and push, is you should feel press in that lower back, that connection with the lower leg, with the back leg, pushing. Right? So it's not energy rising and being thrown out here. It's energy expanding. Okay, that's press. And then.
So do you sink on press?
Yeah.
So you're here, you sit, and you're already sitting.
There's a rising but you don't want to do a rise all the way up. It's not. That's why it's the difference between that and push. It's you've thrown, you come back to center, so your hips are square, and then you rise up slightly, and then there's that expansion. So it's almost like it's a curve of energy, right? Because the final moment, the moment of actual real expression, is here and is actually kind of sinking. Right? So, because press, I keep saying it's like a puffer fish. Press is an expansion. It's like a bubble expanding. Right? And so you feel it. There's a deeper tuck in a way. Right? There's a real push. You should feel it in the lower back. And you very much want to be connected to the foot that's supporting you. Right. Remember, press is this heavy, rounded energy, it's a way of expressing heavy energy as opposed to piercing energy, which is what push is. Right? You want to think of press, if somebody grabs you from behind, like in a bear hug, press is, right? Creating that shape. So you can do press just with your back. It's that rounded, pushing energy. Right? So you're shocking your opponent. That's the press quality that you're expressing, right? So that's why, again, the arms are not out here, arms are here. You're not trying to go far. What you're trying to do is to create that circle. Right? It's a circle that's expanding from the center. All right? And then press, and then drop the elbows, turn the hand, seal it closed. So here again, to determine the correct distance and how far should you bring the hands and all that kind of stuff, what you want to do is pay attention to the shoulders and the feeling of openness in the shoulders. Because if I'm here and I bring the hands in and it's tight against the belly, all of this is closed. My shoulder joints are closed. What I want is to be here, where again I'm creating this arc, this structure in the arms, where there's space under the armpits. There's a little less because we're closing the elbows and bringing them in, but you're not squeezing. You're not shutting off blood flow in the armpit because you're so tight. So you want to have that space. The back is still rounded, right? It's here. And one of the things you want to think about is that seal it closed. The application for seal it closed is that you just did press, and your opponent blocked it and is now pushing back, right? So you want to think of this, in this case, my right arm is now being pushed. There's a two-handed push on my arm. And so I'm going to drop the elbow as a trick, right? That's the trap. Somebody's pushing against me and I drop the elbow so they fall in this way. But I want to keep my hands out in front to prevent them from just falling on top of me. So you need a structure here that's still strong enough that you can actually resist. Like here, the hand is going to turn to control an arm. So this structure here has to be strong enough that you can conceivably control an arm. So if you're here and tight, if you've done this and you're all closed, right, there's no control, there's no strength here. So I have to be out here to again create that structure, that openness in the shoulders that allows the back to be engaged. So here, you drop the elbow, that's the trap. It comes in slightly, turn the hand over. So now I'm in a position where I should be able to actually hold my opponent's arm. If I'm here, there's no strength. It has to be here. You have to have that openness in the shoulder. And that's what tells you what the distance is in arms from the belly is actually your shoulder. Right? Because you just did press, drop the elbow, that's the trap. You're falling this way. You bring the hip, and you're kind of sitting down. So you want to think in terms of somebody's pushing you, and then they just fell because you've removed that elbow. So they're falling towards you. So there's that sitting down, the arms are in front, turn the hand because now you're controlling their arm. So here, this position, right? Arms make a curve, back is rounded. From this position, now you're gonna shift forward and strike. Right? So again, it's the shoulders telling you what the distance, how to move the arms. All right, because from here, boom. So trap, control. Trap, control. That's what we're doing here, trap, control. And the other hand is now going to shift and strike. Boom. And here's the same idea. You're not extending far. It's here. Again, that same arc, same shape. The guy's falling towards you. Boom. And then essentially you're putting your hand so that you're falling onto your palm. It's a palm strike out to the chest, throat, or jaw. Boom. Boom. And you're sitting onto that front foot, striking. So they're falling towards you. They're going this way because you've trapped. This is the dropping the elbow so that they're pushing and they go, and they're going this way. So they're falling towards you, control, and then you hit them right in the face as they fall towards you. So because of that, because they're falling towards you, you're sitting on that front foot, right? The energy is actually down because you want to be strong and stable. Sitting down and then turn the hips. And that's what powers that arm moving forward is actually the turn of the hips. So it's not the hand moving forward, it's the hips turning, right? It's the fact that I was here and I turn the hips, bring the toes in, boom. That's what moves my hands through space. That's what provides the power. And so all I want is to extend slightly. So once again, I'm in the same position where I have, once again, open shoulder, space under the armpit, rounded arm, because that's the structure, that's the most solid. And since the power is being provided by the hips, and the term of the hips, I don't have to cock the arm and throw it out, because, right, the hips are providing all the power, right? So in the end, again, in this position here, even though it feels a little closed, you still want to feel like the back is rounded, arms are curved, long, and in the strike at the end, your finger is basically essentially touching your elbow, right? Because you're sliding forward, palm is down here. One of the ideas with this hand position, by the way, is that since you've controlled the arm and you're going to strike, the one place you know is clear that he can't block is right above your own hand. Because if I block the hand and I strike here, well, that's the guy's upper arm, right? Because you're controlling the guy's forearm. He pushed, you control the guy's forearm. If I strike here, that's his arm, that's his shoulder, so I'm not hitting as much. So I need to come on this side, again, his midline, my midline as well, for a strike to the face. So that's why it's not to the side, it's along your own midline, because you're controlling and you're going for the open space. The one place that's open in the structure of your opponent, right? Because he's like this, controlling his arm. So the only place to strike is along the midline right here. If you're to the side, you're just going to hit a shoulder. So that's why this particular strike is done along the midline, your own midline, which is your opponent's midline, and over your own hand. So that's why you train yourself to have that contact the whole way through, so your fingers are touching your elbow. That's when you know you're in the correct position. All right? And then, so we're here, we come back, drop the elbows. And this is simply, so I was in this position, and as I come back, because I'm being pushed back, he blocked this, pushes back. So I'm going to ride that push, arms full along the horizontal, and then I drop the elbows until my forearms are vertical before I can go ahead and push. And this, right, this move here, it's important to have the horizontal and vertical. Horizontal, vertical. Because that's the horizontal is the absorption of the initial push, and the dropping of the elbows, the vertical, is what pushes the guy's hands apart in a way. If you're doing this at a diagonal, then you don't have the separation. You don't have the sideways force. So horizontal, vertical. Right? There's a real geometry here, but the geometry allows you to project power, right? Because it's the structure. So you want to have that sense of drawing in, right? Which is also what protects you. This is the push arrives and you draw it in and then you drop. Depending on how it goes, this crossing of the hands can also be if you're lucky, there's two hands here. This also can cross your opponent's hand, so that when you drop the elbows, you've made them, they were like this, and then you've made them cross their hands, and then their hands are crossed when you push them, if you're lucky. But this idea, though, that it's horizontal, vertical, that's the important part. Because if you're just going here and then push, then you've never negated your opponent's push, right? Because if I'm here and I just do this, you imagine that my opponent's arms are on my hands. How do I get rid of them? How do I push those arms or hands away from my body if I'm here? First of all, if I'm too compressed, there's no place for me to go, so I have to be out here. So there's a little bit of room for me to move. But also, I want to be able to separate the guy's hand. I want to be on the inside of my opponent's push. So if somebody's pushing here, you're basically pushing the arms to the side, then rising up and pushing. So that's what's here, and then this is the push to the side, and then push. But you don't have to think in terms of pushing. All you have to do is drop the elbows so that your forearms are along the vertical. And that puts you in the perfect position to rise up and push, right? Whereas this does not put you in the right position. It has to be here, then here. Boom. Right? So there's a clean geometry to this. Horizontal, vertical for a push. If you're here, you can't clear. You're like a baby Tyrannosaurus, and you can't do anything with your arms. Here. There's space under the armpit. Not here. You can feel on the shoulders too high. Here. Boom. Here I'm solid. Here, if I had to, I could resist. Boom. Push. Right. This is something that we see in the push hands exercises. Here, it looks like you're leaning back, but actually you're not. And this is important, so the hips are tucked. As you come here, your hips are sliding forward, right? So it's not leaning back in the spine. Hips are tucked. You're still connected. As I'm here, I sit down on that rear leg. My front knee moves forward. My hips slide forward, so that you're compensating for the fact that your shoulders are going back by sliding the hips forward, right? So it's kind of a cantilever. So here, you can actually still be balanced. You should be able to pick up that front foot and still be balanced. If you lean back, you can't really be balanced. And you can feel the pressure in the lower back. So this is sitting further, sliding the hips further, right? And then dropping, and then from here, rising up and pushing. And that's why there's a little tiny step there when we do the form, right? Because when we do the form, we're here, we sit back on that rear foot, sit down, hips are tucked, hips are sliding forward, drop. And then we're going to put the heel down. So we're on the toes, then we're going to put the heel down, rise up and push, all right? So we're here, and then boom, boom. And that foot extension, again, is simply the reach. So if I'm sitting down here, I'm simply extending within the reach of my leg, not reaching forward with the foot. I was just here, heel. I'm still able to pick up the foot, boom, 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 boom. Here, foot, boom. All right? That all makes sense for this first section?
Yep.
So again, you want to make sure that the elbows are not too high, because if the elbows are high, then you can feel that the shoulder joint is being over opened. So the elbows are down so that you feel that there's the shoulder joint itself is almost in line with the rest of the structure of the shoulder, right? And you can feel when the elbows are too high, there's a little, you can feel in your shoulder joint as there's now a crease in your shoulder, which is not what you want. Because the way the muscles work is if the elbows are too high, then there's a whole set of muscles that now can't be engaged, right? Because now they've been so shortened that they're not helping anymore. So you want the elbow low enough that all of these muscles are now in line and working together from elbow all the way to the spine. That's the connection that you want to have. Yeah. Right? So the elbows are never going to be above your shoulders. Right? Yeah. Boom. Boom. Right? Yeah. And of course, again, you want to soften everything at the end, right? So even though I say it's horizontal, vertical, you don't want to do it mechanically, like it's not 1, 2, 3. In the end, it's all one single continuous flow. But you want to have the sense that this is this is a gathering, this is pushing to the side. So this is here and then push. Everything is linked and transformed into the other. So you can round all these corners. It's not choppy, it's connected, it's a single move. But in terms of quality of energy, there's a definite 1, 2, 3. All right, connected together and becomes a spiral. Boom. Right? Boom. All right. So we were here, we push, and then so push on. This is important. The push on is the most young move that we can have, right? It's real projection of energy. Sending energy away. But we don't want to throw our own body forward. We only want to send the energy forward. And that's why I talk about the middle Dantien being kind of mechanically an element or an area of transformation. You're transforming upward energy into forward energy. you're not sending your whole body forward. You're sending your body upwards. And then once that upwards energy reaches the middle Dantien, it's then transformed into horizontal forward energy. Right? Which is why before we're talking about how you step out into the heel, roll the foot, rise up onto the toes, and the toes are actually pushing you back. So the rear leg is pushing you up and slightly forward, front leg is pushing you back and up. So it's those two vectors of force essentially meet at the lower Dantien. That energy is transformed up the spine vertically. Once it reaches the chest or the middle Dantien, that energy is then transformed into horizontal energy. Right? And we're not leaning forward, we're not using our weight to project, because we want to make sure that we never throw ourselves forward. We never throw ourselves off balance. So the push is always going to be short. Right? Energy rises up and then shoots out this way. But the body itself doesn't shoot out this way. The body goes up. Right? So you want to resist the temptation of just shifting forward. Just right here. All the strikes that we do are going to be short. If somebody is so far away that you have to lean forward in order to push them, you should have kicked them. Right? If I rise up and push, it's right here. If my opponent is further than here, I would kick instead. Because that means he's too far. Right? Because this is the reach of my hand, which is essentially where my foot is, slightly above, further than my foot. If he's further than that, then I should kick. Because that's how you get the extra range. So whenever you feel you're here like, oh, I'm going forward, it's like, well, why? Why are you so far forward? Where is your opponent? If he was way over there, what's the point? He's right here. A lot of the Tai Chi applications are for somebody who's much closer. Like even this, if you think about it, somebody's pushed you and you had to go this far back, right? Somebody's pushing you, so their hands are on your chest, and they're pushing you. So if their hands on their chest, that means their body's right here, within an arm's length. Otherwise, they wouldn't reach you at all. So they're close enough that you have to go back here in order to deflect the push. So when you rise up, they're right here. Boom, that's point of contact right here. Everything else, that's the extra energy. But the point of contact is right here. Now's the push, right? So everything is much closer than you think. If he's further away, if he's retreating, I'm here, and he's moving back, then this is kick, not a push. All right, does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So we pushed. Sit back, turn, and now we just do the same thing on the other side. So again, you want to make sure that here is the shoulders giving you the sense, the openness in the shoulders that gives you your scale, your shape. It's the shoulders, your roundedness. Same here. Open in the shoulders, open in the armpit. Here, not going too far, but right here, so you can still maintain the connection between hip and shoulders, right? If I'm here, I feel it in the hip, it's too much. Here. Back to center. Press. Sinking, tucking, rounding everything. It's nice round energy. And dropping that left elbow, bring the hands in. Not too much, because we still want to have that openness. Turn. Here I'm stable. Turn the hand, shift, bring the hips, strike. Hand is over my own hand, striking along the midline. Open palm. It's a palm strike, so you're hitting with the heel of the palm. Back, cross the hands, drop, heel, toe, and then rise up and push. And then again, do the same thing, turn, and here I'm just in the basic posture, right? So the arms are here, basic posture, shift. Right? So again, you want to have the looseness, you want to have the roundedness of everything. Even in the transition, like if I'm here, I'm going to let for kind of artistic reasons, you can let the arms float a bit so that your shoulders shouldn't feel like they're locked. Right? It's not like you're now mechanically just. You can let, right, in this transition here, this is slightly overextended right now, but I know that's fine. Right, because I could do it, to really do it correctly, it should be right here, right? It's a little smaller. If I were to really kind of make sure my shoulder's connected. But we want to be relaxed through this. So here, I'm going to let my arm have its own kind of momentum and movement. Right? This is kind of an artistic decision more than a mechanical decision. But you want to have that. You want to have the feeling that that things are flowing, right? That you're letting the momentum of the movement express itself through the arms. It's actually not a small thing because Tai Chi should be beautiful. It's actually one of the requirements, right? It's something, it tells you that you're being efficient, because beauty is an expression of efficiency. That's how we recognize when something is efficient, because we go, oh, how beautiful. So here, right, you want to have this kind of looseness, that you want to have the quality of flow, of mode flow, as in motion flow, right? Don't be rigid. Don't turn this into a mechanical act. You want to have your body as your own reference, but you also want to have the looseness of a performance, the looseness of a wave, right? So here, I'm going to let my arm go a little further than it really should, but that's okay, right? Because at least you know, as long as you know what you're doing or why you're doing it, then you're good, right? So here, I'm not gonna just be here like this. That would, right? Because this would actually be the correct way of doing it, right? If my shoulder is engaged the whole time, I'm just gonna relax all of that and let my arm float a little bit. Right? And that means your back is engaged. Your back is actually what's holding up your arms. So the shoulder's loose enough that you can have that kind of flowiness in the movement, right? Because your shoulder's relaxed. Because your back is doing the work. Right? So you want beauty. You want that flow. You want the sense that energy is moving through you and you're not blocking the energy by locking joints. Right? So it's contradictory in a way because we have this kind of mechanical guidelines, but then the idea is you soften all of that, right? Is that clear? That makes sense?
Yep.
All right, so you just want to let the energy flow through. But in doing this, I also know that if this was actually like combat or sparring, I know that this is actually too far, and I can go and correct it very quickly because I'm aware of the reference that I have, which is the basic posture. So I know that this is too far, but that's okay. I can easily correct it and just bring it in, but that requires tension, which we don't want. Okay. Which direction? Okay, we're going this way, right? And again here, boom, 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 and then turn and face the rear, boom. Right. And this, of course, I'm going very fast. And that would be the end of the first section of the 13 postures. Let's see what time is it.
Can you quickly review this hand turn? Does that happen simultaneously or after the elbow?
The hand turn here, in sila closed. Yeah, so after press, this is all simultaneously. The hand, because my elbow drops, my hand pivots here. Right, so that's and then you sink, and then you turn the hand.
Then you turn.
Yeah, because you want to remember, in the application, somebody's pushing against you, and you're doing this. It's a trick. Right? I got them to push against me, and then I removed the elbow, so now they're falling. So first I want to make them fall, and then I turn the hand to control the arm. Boom. You can, one of the applications could be that you're here and you actually pull, right? You're actually pulling. So this elbow drops and then the hand turns and you pull to really get them to fall, depending on how much they're falling forward. You can simply help them and they fall to the side, right? So that's why it's drop, turn, drop, turn. You don't want to turn the hand before you've dropped the elbow. You don't want to, right? That's why it's not really simultaneous. It's first the elbow and then, because now you can see how by dropping the elbow, I'm creating this line that goes this way. Boom, boom. Right? So I create the line and then I turn the hand to help my opponent go into that same direction. All right? So again, this is kind of the mechanical view of it. When you do it in the form, you want to have that sense of flow, right? Just drops. Boom. But that's why there is, in terms of timing, it's 1, 2, 3. Drop the elbow, turn the hand. Drop the elbow, turn the hand. Drop. Because if you emphasize the movement, right? This movement, and you really engage the hips, you start seeing so you go from here to here. It's almost like a reverse grasp the sparrow's tail, right? Because grasp the sparrow's tail, we're here, the elbow's up, turn the waist. So here we're going to do roughly almost the same thing, except we're going down. Right? It's like a reverse grasp the sparrow's tail. But we're going to go here and control. Here and control. Just like in grasp the sparrow's tail, we turn the hand to control. Right? The hand pivots so that you're grabbing somebody's arm. Right? It's here, and this same thing here, and you turn as you bring in. Because your hand, somebody's push here, and you go. Yeah? Clearish? So let's stop here, and next time we'll take a look at the second section, and we'll look at the hands again. All right, so let's just take a bow and close it off. Actually, let's do Celestial Tiger. Let's make sure everything gets nice and back to the lower Dantian. So Celestial Tiger, we'll do it 3 times. And oh. Palms down. Oh. Palms up. Oh. Pinkies pointing forward. Oh. And palms out. Arms around. Oh. Pointing up over your head. Oh. Drop the arms and open the chest to the heavens. Oh. Reach back. Bring the hands forward. Oh. Oh. Exhale as the hands cross the heart. And oh. Exhale as the hand crosses the heart. And again. Oh. Last time. Sh. Ho. Sh. Ho. Sh. Ho. Hands on belly. Feet together. Let's take a bow. All right. HiddenTaiChi.com for actual classes. All right.